Yo, 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 what is going on, everybody? Zachary Smith here, joined by Alan Saunders, of course, from Gillette Stadium on Steelers Now Postgame, the site of where the Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the New England Patriots by the score of 21-14 to move to 2-1 on the season. Alan, before we did a bunch of comments flooding this, I know people are going to obviously want to talk about the game. Assuming a lot of negative stuff coming in here, even despite the win. I get it. First thing I got to ask, though, you checked another box here of stadiums that you've been to off the board here. How did you feel of this one compared?
I really like it. I
Okay.
hate the location, but I
Yeah.
like the stadium. So you're like on a non-game day, 45 minutes away from downtown Boston here. Today I have I got here at 10. If you got here any later than that, I probably like 2 hours. But I really like the stadium. The area around the stadium is okay. It's got one of those like little ballpark villages that I feel like are sort of more common in Major League Baseball. If you've been to Atlanta, they kind of have a similar vibe there. That's okay. That doesn't really excite me much. I really hate being out in the middle of nowhere in the suburbs, but I really do like the stadium. It's really nice. It's unique, has some cool features. There's a lot of standing areas like the one I'm in right now, which is really down low, like close to the field. There's a couple more up, sort of like similar to the rotundas that like Pittsburgh has. There's a big bridge over the one end zone. I think it's a cool stadium. Big fan.
Okay. Cool. Which ones are still we waiting to check? Which ones have you still not been
Chicago will happen later this year.
to? Okay. Yeah.
San Francisco will happen later this year when the Steelers go to the Super Bowl. And then
Okay.
I'll just be without Arizona and Dallas. Those will be the only two.
All right, I appreciate the sentiment there. I like the ambition. So obviously we're not going to briefly summarize the way that this went down. We're going to talk for about 40 minutes with everything that the comments want us to talk about. But if I were to ask you, Alan, how would you briefly summarize what you saw take place today at Gillette Stadium? How would you do so?
You know what a Mexican standoff is? Where like three people are all holding guns at each other, and I'm going to shoot you, but you're going to shoot him, and he's going to shoot me.
Yeah.
This was like the opposite of that. Like two people just staring at each other, trying really hard not to hurt the other guy. Like it was just no, you're good. You win this game. No, I insist. No, actually, I don't want to do it. You go do it. Well, we're actually maybe not capable. Maybe you should just win it. Fine if you insist. Kind of how they went back and forth here. The Steelers did not play well enough to win this game, but made like a total of about 9 plays to just allow them to win it all on those plays. The good and the bad of this is as follows, right? A good team, a truly good team would have come in here and stomped New England given the performance. Like this is a team that's going to finish like 9, 10 wins, and it's just going to be totally hollow because they have a really soft schedule, and they're not actually good. And an actually good team would come, like the Buffalo Bills are going to come in here and beat this team by 20 and without breaking a sweat.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bad news. The good news is 80% of all NFL games come down to like those 10 plays, and the Steelers are pretty good at them. At no point did I ever think they weren't winning this game. It was always in their control. They weren't getting stops on defense, but they were getting big plays. Mike Tomlin always wins close games. Last week was an aberration. I was fairly certain it wasn't going to happen twice. And you can get pretty far being a win close games merchant of a team.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that it told us anything really that we didn't already know about the big picture.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many thoughts that pop in my head, Alan. But like the first thing, to be honest with you, I was fully prepared to come on here and say I feel absolutely no different, and I was just going to go on this like rampage talking about why I don't. But then like we go to bonus coverage for the rest of the games happening in the 1 o'clock slate. 3 straight games with a blocked field goal, 2 of which are returned for touchdowns. Cleveland blocked a field goal from the Packers to set up a game-winning field goal to beat the Packers. Like a lot of weird stuff just happened where like my main takeaway was just like, hey, just win and let's talk about how it being an ugly win as opposed to anything else there. So I don't know. I mean, this is not a place where they've typically done very well in Foxborough. So like first and foremost, obviously getting the good result. We can talk about it not being a very, confidence boosting way of getting there, sure. But just a weird week in general, honestly, if you were paying attention to other games around the league.
Weirdness happens. Weirdness happened to the Steelers last week. They, I thought, played really well in big moments in this game. Offense was really good in the red zone. Defense was inhumanly good in the red zone. I don't even know how to quantify 2 turnovers at the 1 yard line. Like, that's as good as you can do, basically, in terms of red zone defense. And so, like, no special teams, cleaned that up from last week. Good red zone offense. Defense that made big plays in big moments. It's good enough to win this game. Will it be good enough to win more than 9 or 10 of them? Probably not. But you win them, and then you try to get better. You also try to get healthy. I saw a lot of takes during this game about the Steelers' $158 million defense not being able to slow down Pop Douglas and Hunter Henry. More than fair, but also, like, James Pierre was out there for half the game. He's not part of the $158 million. Jabril Peppers and Chuck Clark were signed up to scrap heap this year. They're not part of the $158 million. Like, that's who was out there making plays today. They're beat up.
Yeah.
I thought Derek Harmon was a really, really nice positive first step into the NFL. Looks like the playmaker that we thought he would be. And I thought just his presence lifted Keanu Benton, lifted Cam Hayward, lifted Wyatt Black. I don't think it's a coincidence that every other Steelers defensive lineman had their best game of the year with Derek Harmon in there alongside them. I don't think it's a coincidence that Patrick Queen looked a lot better against the run today with some better play in front of him. Yeah. And so I think there are a lot of good things to build on from this game, even though this performance, not very exciting.
Yeah, I went into the game thinking, just because of like all the buzz late week, felt good about getting Derek Harmon back. Talked about Cole Holcomb taking on an increased role. We're going to see more of Jabril Peppers, and like the amount that those guys played. In my mind, I was thinking, man, like if they don't take a step against the run today, it won't be because they weren't willing to turn over the stones to do so. Like, they threw in some different bodies and like to try to see, are these solutions something that we can change internal to at least get some better results? And I thought they definitely took a positive step forward with the run defense today. And even like to flip sides, Alan, and talk about the way that this game started out, it turned into the game that Derek kind of predicted would happen on Friday, but it didn't start out that way. Like, the Steelers had some
I was thinking, here's my track meet. Here we go.
Yeah.
2 straight to start the game. I was like, all right, 30 may have been underselling it. And then, things happen. I thought, to go back to the defense real quick.
Yes. Yeah.
They also did a much better job of changing up and disguising their coverages early in this game. And then Slay gets hurt. And then they're right back to just holding on for dear life. Like, you're not going to go out there and call the most exotic stuff you have in your playbook when you're getting simple stuff wrong, because you have different guys all over. Cole Holcomb with his first real playing time this year. Jabril Peppers with his first real playing time this year. Now you're throwing James Pierre in the mix. And it's like, gosh, could they get the defense that they paid for to play one game together? And so, I thought they started well. And then once Slay got hurt, that was a big blow to what they felt like they could do in the secondary. You saw, I think, one play where they got Diggs against James Pierre in man coverage. That went about as well as you would think it would go. And then that was the end of man coverage. And when you can't even pretend that you can play man coverage, you're all of a sudden really limited what you can do on defense. And now you got soft zones where Hunter Henry is going to eat you alive because he's really good at that. And you're looking at it like, why aren't they manning up PQ on and Peyton Wilson on Hunter Henry? Those guys can cover him man-to-man, and they can. But Eccles and Pierre cannot hold up on the outside playing man-to-man all day. And so, very limited by their schematic options, by the availability of guys on defense.
Don't want to continue to ignore the comments here. We appreciate everybody that's in here. By the way, like, subscribe if you have not yet. We're going to start working through some of those now. Desert Cactus talked about the defense here. Steelers absolutely need to make life harder on 3rd and long. There are too many successful conversions. I mean, yeah, it seemed like even when the Steelers defense would win on 1st and 2nd down, be 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, they were still finding those chunk plays in the passing game over the New England Patriots.
Checkdowns going for 10 yards on 3rd and 10 just can't happen. I mean, some of them, like I said, like you're stuck in zone. You can kind of, I don't want to say forgive, but understand what's happening. A couple miscommunications, which again, new guys are going to happen. But I thought there was too much of that, of the just like free yardage available all over underneath. They have to find a way to be able to play more man, and however they got to do it. This is not a good receiving core. Hunter Henry is not even a good tight end. He's above average, but he's not like dangerous. Can you imagine what the Kansas City Chiefs would have done to this defense playing the way they did today? Like, just utter annihilation. They have to come up with better answers in a lot of areas.
Do you think what do you think it is specifically about teams doing play action under center that's given them so much trouble? That seems to be something that seems like there's always like causing issues.
They're not stopping the run, so they're afraid of it. If you're not stopping the run, play action is going to be a lot more effective against you. It's in your head. You're thinking about it.
It just seems like specifically like the under center stuff, though, too. I mean, you're probably right in general, just play action haven't been good at. I don't know why I'm so focused on the under center part.
Yeah, there's some RPO stuff against the Jets they didn't do very well with either. I think anytime you're not doing a good job against the run, you're more susceptible to getting hit by play action. I also don't think – so the other thing is when you're starting to run, you play heavier personnel against lighter personnel. You leave your base in against 12 sometimes, which means you got a slow linebacker covering a tight end in space. And then so you got these guys that you got Peppers in there instead of Jalen Ramsey, right? They played some 3 safety today. So you're not stopping the run. Guys are thinking about the run. You're also playing heavier personnel to try to compensate for your lack of success. And then those guys are getting beat to the flat. Those guys are getting beat deep on like angles and up and outs and wheels and things like that, where maybe they can cover that guy for 3 seconds, but they can't cover him for 5. And they're not getting home with the pass rush. That's to me the part of the play. Like, look what happens every time the Steelers try to play action pass. Aaron Rodgers goes one Mississippi and then chucks the ball with his eyes closed because he's about to get crushed. Why is that not happening when the Steelers defense is on the field is a very fair question.
I'm going to try to mix in some positives with the negatives here as we go throughout. Gino brings up Nick Herbig, and while we don't necessarily have to discuss the idea of keeping him around long term, I definitely thought that he was a positive player in this one with the way that he was able to create some pass rush. We were interested in watching that matchup take place with 4th overall pick Will Campbell and just how it would go, fun back and forth. But Nick certainly had his wins without there. Talked about how creative he is as a pass rusher and the type of problems he can present even to the most talented of tackles. I definitely thought that he was a positive for this defense.
Yeah, I thought he did pretty well against the run too. I know Nick Herbig can rush the passer. It's can he be out there for 50 snaps a game and not get worn down in the run game and not give up big plays in the run game, and I don't think he did that. He had a couple coverage drops that were a little suspect. But, man, I thought in general he was pretty solid.
Going back to the offense here, run, screen, screen. Deep shot, hopefully he catches it. Rodgers on the ground after every throw, run. Alan, just in general, the offensive performance, it did seem pretty uninspired, if you will, after those first 2 drives. I don't know, where you feel like the biggest problem of that lies within, but just in general, the offense performance and what you made of it.
New England followed the blueprint laid down by the Seahawks. They played a bunch of cover 2. They didn't really blitz that much. The Steelers couldn't protect Rodgers, and they couldn't run the ball despite light boxes. I think that's the whole story of this game. To me, a lot of it's the offensive line. They need that group to be better than it was today. They drafted that group to be better than it was today. They're still very inexperienced. I think patience is more than warranted. I'm not freaking out about the future. I'm not scrapping the quarterback plans for the 2026 NFL draft today and rerouting the scouts to tackle next weekend. But the offensive line did not play well enough today for the offense to deliver a winning effort, and they have to be better. If you're unable to protect the passer and you're unable to run the ball against cover two, you don't have an offense. There's nothing else you can do. You can just try screen passes. Like that's literally all that's left. Like there's no recourse. I didn't think Arthur Smith had a great gameplay calling in terms of sequencing, but like that scenario, there's no button to press that wins. Like you have to be able to physically win somewhere, and they just weren't. And nobody gets open. That doesn't help. Like nobody's open.
Yeah.
Period. DK's not open. Calvin's not open. Pat's not open. Johnny's not open. You go back and look at the tape. Maybe there's a couple of plays, but like there's nobody out there to be thrown to.
I was chuckling a little bit. I saw a couple people championing the offensive line performance from today because Aaron Rodgers was not sacked. It's pretty funny to think about. I mean, that doesn't
champion mean Aaron Rodgers' internal clock and willingness to bail.
Yeah. I was just saying, is there any better indication to not just look at the raw box score than that?
Yeah, right. Sacks matter, pressures matter, sacks matter more, but like understand what's happening out there. For sure.
Major headache, which is what I felt coming on for a little bit here. Said 5 sacks, 4 fumbles, tackles for loss, and a pick. Take that win whilst the offense missed some key plays. I mean, yeah, again, there was like certainly some things to take away from this game in a positive manner. TJ Watt had 2 sacks. We've been waiting for that to show up. I thought Cam Hayward was fantastic, especially early on in this game with the way that he played for people that have been waiting for him to come on. Derek Harmon, you mentioned, I thought had a nice debut. And by the way, if I can get like at least a half a point for the Kenny Gainwell touchdown while it was rushing, not receiving, then I hit on both of mine. So very excited about that.
I got my 2 interceptions.
You did?
It only took me 7 interceptions thrown.
But yeah, there's certainly positive things to take away from this. For sure. It just, I mean, in general, I guess like the thought, Alan, is, how differently should you feel about this performance? Like, were any questions answered for you by what you saw on the field today?
No, I think there's some nice things to build from in a win. There's certainly a lot to work on in a win. A lot of the things to work on are things that have needed work on. I do think this game is more like the Steelers team I was expecting this year than either of the first two. I was expecting this offense to struggle. I was expecting the offensive line to struggle. I was expecting the wide receiver group that was obvious to everyone, except for like the 9 of you weirdos who are like convinced that Roman Wilson is an all-pro, that this receiver group was just fundamentally not nearly good enough. You looked at the offense on paper, and it did not look like it was going to work very well. It did not work very well. However, it also looked on paper like the best defense I've seen in 5 years in the NFL. They weren't that today, but this is more like the way I envisioned this team winning games. If the Steelers just have a normal rate of third down defense in this game.
Yeah.
Take away maybe 1 or 2 of those turnovers because they turn into punts instead.
Yeah.
But you just start to suffocate a team, and the offense will score out of just inertia. And like you can kind of see them getting there. But if this had been how the Jets game went, I would feel better about that developing into a way they can routinely win games. But it's just been all over the place for 3 weeks. So, I guess because this matches my prior, it feels a little bit better than like the Jets game, which felt wholly unsustainable. And then obviously a Seahawks loss. But not much.
Steelers Lee gave us $1.99. Said prayers for Najee. Yeah, Alan. I'm assuming you've at least gotten word of that happening. That sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, for Najee, honestly, the durability is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about
That's a
Najee
tough
Harris.
dude, man. That's one of the toughest guys on offense that I think I've ever covered. And to see him in that much pain, it's real. And obviously, thinking about Najee first and foremost, but cross one of those comp picks off Omar Khan's list because that one's almost completely gone now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wasn't even honestly thinking about that because you just think about the player, but certainly from a Steelers perspective, that unfortunately is the reality of that as well. Ryan bringing up something here that I want to play off of. Last drive seemed really good, and the O-line was blocking better. Felt like hopefully that can carry over into the next week. I honestly just wanted to say something that we've talked about as a whole that's been positive for the offense. Once again, the case here, the red zone offense. Like, they're not moving the ball incredibly well. They're stagnant a lot of the time. Once they get into the red zone, they just seem to have, I don't know if it's because of the personnel specifically matching what works so well in the red zone or what it is, but they get down into that area and it just seems like there's more at their disposal.
I felt like they had some early success doing some things that looked like obvious changes. And New England very quickly made an adjustment, and the Steelers did not have a counterpunch. And so you get into this trap where it's like, well, this worked before, and this has never worked. What's more likely to work again? I have concerns about the offense. I'm not sure that I feel better about the last drive, even though it worked. I will say this. If you give Aaron time, he can still throw the ball. Mm-hmm. That throw to Jonnu Smith over the middle, that was nasty. The touchdown to Calvin was nasty. Like, when he has time, the ball comes out great. He's not making perfect decisions. The throw to Spillane was dreadful.
I was going to say, was he asked about that play or anything specific?
I wasn't in the press conference. I wanted to get into the room and talk to guys in the defense. That's the story I'm focusing on coming out of this one. And I haven't had a chance to listen back to it yet, but that was a bad throw, bad decision. But, there's a couple he kind of throws under duress. But, when he has time, the ball, and somebody gets open, the ball looks great coming out of his hand. I think he has the physical tools to get it done. They just got to give him some help.
You mentioned concerns about the offense as a whole. Hayden shares that sentiment. Feels like the offense set on running to set up the pass, but felt like it should have been the other way around from what I've seen. Love your thoughts.
I mean, I think that is the thing that can work for them. But they ran the ball first and it worked. And then the passing still didn't work. So they did it. They ran first and then had the pass set up and still couldn't pass. And then the Patriots took the run away, and then they had nothing. So I don't think it was an order of operations problem. I want to take this one just because. Donnie Watts. Understand that, there will not be a better lineman than Broderick Jones available in all of free agency in the next 3 years. There are not 30 competent offensive linemen at the NFL level right now. What you see is what you got. You will not do better going to a backup. You will not do better going to the waiver wire. No one will trade anybody that can even stand on two legs. There are not linemen out there to be had, friends. This is what you get. And probably this is what you got next year, too. Almost no matter what. Except for Isaac Seumalo, obviously. He's not under contract. But the other four guys, no matter how poorly they develop, are probably starting all next year, too. Because there's just unless they want to wreck their whole rebuild plan to go back to offensive line, there's no way to do it. And all young offensive linemen stink. Campbell's out there giving up sack fumbles today. Steelers didn't give up one of those. I thought Broderick Jones was, again, not the worst guy out there.
I have a question.
There is no going to get offensive linemen. They are not there.
I mean, I fully agree with that in like across the board in general. Did Donnie mention like he didn't say Broderick Jones specifically in this message unless you saw it from something earlier from him? I'm just wondering why you immediately went there with Broderick. Just
Because like
assumption
I
that
think a lot of people were just sort of hyper focused on him as like this big problem coming out of the Jets game, and like
yeah,
it wasn't like this game. The offensive line was bad, but like it wasn't just like, oh, it was one guy. Like it was bad across the board.
sure.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
would.
anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
I have an end zone corner press box here, so I feel like I got a better view of the offensive line than I usually did. I don't think anybody had a good day.
I'll be honest. The one that I would single out as feeling pretty strongly that he didn't have a good day was Troy Fautanu, the other tackle. Like I thought that
I
he
didn't
wasn't
think
very good.
Frazier had a good day.
Yeah,
Like it,
penalties on both those guys as well.
yeah.
Steven, always very generous. Just asked about any injury news. Believe Slay came back in, but anything following the game said about any of
Slay
those?
and Benton both banged up. Slay returned. Good news on the injury front. Maybe they can start getting some guys back. Harmon confirmed that he was on a snap count, and he does expect to be full go next week.
You know, we didn't love the idea of that early bye. Maybe it won't be the worst thing in the world. You know, I mean, I probably won't be thinking that later in the season, but certainly with the way that things are looking
It's
right
hard
now,
to
and hopefully
imagine
we
their
get
injury
back.
situation on one side of the ball being appreciably worse. Now you could lose one big player, Rodgers, Metcalf, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I really wish I had that bye right now. But yeah, seems like it's coming at a good time.
Major Headache put something in my head, even though this wasn't directly his question. Would like to see more, or statement, I should say. Would like to see more of Washington, DK, Skronik, and design plays out blocking for Warren Austin, etc. So we can touch on that. Obviously, get your thought there. But I was just going to say, in general, you know, we really applauded Arthur Smith for how many guys were seemingly schemed open in week one. And now these are two, you know, different defenses, different coaches, whatever, different personnel. But just is there something on the surface that you can see right away that looks different, and why that hasn't been the case the last 2 weeks?
I think cover two. They're not afraid of the run game, and they're still getting pressure without a blitz. It's really hard to scheme guys open against cover two. Like there are cover two beaters.
Mm-hmm.
I think Metcalf is a good hole shot guy. Probably should try to pump a couple of those in there. They don't really require great protection to try. They did try one, and they didn't even come close. But like, you can try to high low the pull runner. You know, run like Johnny Smith up the seam, and then bring Jalen Warren in behind him. There are things you can do. And then the screen game, they've tried a bunch of screens. They ran every screen I can think of. So, I mean, I specifically saw some of those guys out there doing some blocking. I don't know about all of them at the same time, but yeah, I think that was the only thing. That's the only thing left to try, really, is like screens and shovel passes and jet sweeps and toss plays and stuff like that, where you're just looking to create some explosive out of nothing. Like that's really all there is left to try when the situation presented itself like today.
Very generous, Grayson. Thank you for the $4.99 here. If the offense capitalizes just one of those turnovers from the defense, this game is a blowout. Offense needs to push the ball down the field. Offense was the weak link. I mean, a Steelers blowout. Sure, anything that's, you know, two scores or above is a Steelers blowout. I think we got to differentiate between a Steelers blowout and a blowout. In terms of pushing the ball down the field, it just goes back to the offensive line, right? Like, how can you push the ball down the field when your offensive line isn't holding up enough, or long enough, I should say, in order to do so? And also,
you got two high safeties. Like, it's a bad combination. I do think they could try maybe some play action. I know they haven't blocked it very well. I would have liked to see some like a play action deep shot on a first down in there, maybe, just to try to push the ball a little bit. Maybe just let Calvin try to run under one. I think there's a good thought there.
Oscar said more slants. What I'll say to this is that was something, you know, going back to training camp, right? We were talking about how that might be a bread and butter play for this offense, is that slant to DK Metcalf.
I agree with this take. Cover two sits the corners down on the outside. You have linebackers underneath in the middle. You get DK against the linebacker. Run like a little switch. They still have to respect Jonnu. I do think that's a decent idea.
Also, Oscar bringing up, keep throwing in the middle one. Now, this is, I think, the other way around in terms of Steelers' middle of the field defense specifically. I mean, we've touched on this obviously a little bit.
Very
but like
different. It's just very different. Like last week, they get beaten man coverage, Ramsey and outside leverage, getting beat back to the inside. And this week, it's almost all zone stuff where you're gonna have holes. I can bring up the whiteboard and show the spots in cover 3 where you can go. And like, if you got to play zone, that's like they're there. You can't stop them. And so
maybe you should bring out the whiteboard. Not right now.
I feel like I've done that before.
Really? Specifically with cover
I think
3
I talked about the spot drop last year after Shane Steichen and the Colts eviscerated it.
Yeah. Okay.
But maybe we can do it again. But yeah, I mean, if you got to play zone, there's gonna be holes. Like you can't. It's just a fact of life. Cover 3. Now you can play cover 2, where there are less holes, but the Steelers aren't stopping the run. Like they got to play cover 3 with the extra guy in the box. It makes life tough.
Ron asking about Jalen Ramsey. Can someone please tell me if Ramsey participated? How can he have no stats? He certainly was on the field.
He was all over the place. They were avoiding him like the plague. If you're under center, you take the ball. All right, let's see what we got here. Jalen Ramsey on that guy. James Pierre on that guy. Where are you throwing it? Brandon Eccles on this one in the slot. Never that way. That's for sure. Oh, and they don't seem to be able to keep track of Hunter Henry either. Like, I mean, there's no reason to test Jalen Ramsey there.
Mike bringing up the miscommunication yet again. Hunter Henry had 2 touchdowns in this game. The one you could see, it looked like pre-snap Jabril Peppers was pointing at him, and then nobody took him. Easy touchdown, and then obviously the middle of the field, which I would I mean, I hate to say, you never know, like from watching, I guess for sure. To me, it looked like it was Peyton Wilson probably was supposed to be there, or at least in the area of that second touchdown to Hunter Henry. But yeah, this continues to be a conversation piece, the miscommunication, busted coverages thing. And I know that, some you had obviously running around post-game and stuff like that, but any post-game comments from anybody in regards to this? I know that obviously Thornhill said what he did during the week about the miscommunication and stuff, but just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it's true miscommunication or just blown misassignment. It's really hard to,
yeah, I would be curious because like I said, pre-snap on the first one, Peppers is like pointing to him, talking to somebody. So I didn't know if he was telling him. I think it was Chuck Clark. But yeah.
I mean, I think the Wilson one looked more like just a pure misassignment.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just didn't do their job. The other one may have been a miscommunication. Those aren't really miscommunications. If I say Smitty go long and then you run an out route, that's not a miscommunication. You just didn't do your job. It's not communicating.
Well, see, maybe this is where the problem lies.
Really,
that is a long route. I'm not doing much longer than that. So
yeah. The little guys always work better underneath.
Yeah. Were you starting to say something else there though?
I just think it's not all communication, even if it all gets blamed on communication.
That is one of the easy things to circle back to, huh? Like it's just always like from afar watching, it's just that's the easy thing to point to when you see something like that happen.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes guys don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Sometimes guys know what they're supposed to be doing and play hero ball. I think that was the first touchdown. Was someone just ignoring their assignment to go try to make a play.
Mm-hmm. I will be interested because a couple other people have brought up, Jalen Ramsey. I will be interested to go back and watch and see how well he did play. Just nobody throwing his way. They did run Allen. I don't know if you were expecting to see Wildcat broken out in this one from the Steelers, but I don't know. I was hoping that we would see Aaron Rodgers run a quick slant or something, maybe pull a double move on the outside, but he kind of just stood still on the outside there.
You know what I wanted him to do? It's like the classic, like George Pickens. The other guy's not paying attention. Like, just fire off your.
Wait, George scored a touchdown, a one-handed grab today for Dallas. I don't know if you saw the clip or anything like that, but they're like right in the, and it looks like, I don't know if you've seen the videos of this challenge, but it's like a one-on-one football thing, and it's just like walking, like you're not allowed to run. So you're just like walking routes trying to get open. It literally looked like he was doing that off the line of scrimmage, and then he just makes a ridiculous one-handed catch. Like the talent never in question. Never in question.
Well, he would do this occasionally where he would just like, normally kind of jog on a running play, and then every once in a while just fire out of his stance and crush a guy who wasn't paying attention. I was kind of hoping Rodgers would do that.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, George was rocking that guy to sleep and then pulled off a ridiculous play. But anyways, yeah. Did you any inkling that they could pull out the Wildcat? Have you seen it at all prior to this? Okay.
Yeah. Man, there's more.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess
there's more.
Yeah. We'll keep playing the waiting game, waiting around for it to happen. Starting to wrap up here. So, any other questions, comments that you guys want to throw out there? Stuff we haven't talked about. I'm going through some of the stuff we've discussed already. I know you guys might be joining late, but to double down on something, if there's something fresh on anybody's mind, would seem redundant. Alan, is there anything that's on your mind that we haven't discussed yet that nobody brought up that you're like, we got to talk about this?
No snaps from Caleb Johnson. As I sort of expected. Didn't think. I thought Kenny Jude was pretty good on a kickoff, honestly. Just leave him there. Trey Sermon came up.
Also didn't get any rushing attempts, though. Yeah,
but also didn't get any rushing attempts. Honestly, I feel like maybe some Sermon might help their running game. I mean, neither Warren or Gainwell is really like a big, like just somebody who can go in there and run straight ahead. Caleb can do that too, but Sermon's a bigger guy. I don't know. Wouldn't hate that idea. I did not think Pat Freiermuth had a very good game. He had a third down where it wasn't the world's best route, went off his fingertips. There was another one where him and Aaron didn't seem like they were on the same page on the scramble drill.
Yeah, Aaron, I think he clearly wanted him to sit down.
Yeah, pretty clearly was not happy with where Pat went there. Ball went behind him. And this should have been a really good matchup for him and Johnny Smith. And both of those guys were really quiet. And I don't really know why. I got to go back and look some more. But, they should have ate against those linebackers. And they didn't. It was a little disappointing. Even this game, we came into the season talking a lot about the Steelers tight ends. And, that's as forgiving of a matchup against some bad cover linebackers as you're going to get. And Bob Spillane gets an interception. The Steelers tight ends barely had a catch.
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly a matchup that we were circling, talking about, going back to Friday's show with DB, what is the path to victory here? What is this offense going to funnel through? And at that time, we weren't sure about the availability of Christian Gonzalez. So, without him in the fold, you certainly would have thought that the passing game would funnel through those tight ends and backs. This one made me laugh, not related to the game necessarily. Kobe said, Allen has a green screen of the stadium behind him. Yeah, one of the better backdrops that we've had the opportunity to have here. Reminiscent of the Steelers and Commanders last year in terms of where
I had a good one
set up.
Yeah. I like the little light. Can you see the lighthouse? Yeah, the little lighthouse is kind of cool.
Yeah. I see it. I didn't notice it at first until you pointed it out. But we thoughts on Peppers today. Obviously mentioned that was turning over a stone to get him involved here. We knew he was going to play more than he did.
I thought he was okay. Made the nice turnover play. Beyond that, he said there's a lot to work on. So we'll let him speak for that.
Oscar said no Roman Wilson, I'm assuming. This would be.
He was out there.
Yeah.
He's not doing much. I don't know what you were expecting.
I don't know what I was expecting either. Especially when I before the season said he was going to have like 35 to 40 catches. We got 1 through 3 weeks, so not looking great.
Yeah, I said 25, and I'm not so sure about that.
Steven said, did Y.A. Black start today? It seemed like he was out there a lot.
He did. Yep. Now, I would not expect that to continue when Harmon gets in, but I thought he was okay. He didn't make a lot of plays, but he wasn't getting driven off the ball either, and that's helpful.
Richard, I'm not sure if Richard follows you on Twitter or not to see the halftime shot, but he asked what was for lunch from the Pats.
It was a chicken Caesar salad wrap today. Fair. Not my favorite, but fair.
And Vincent, as we wrap up here, said, too many throws off the back foot from Aaron.
Oh, the alternative was people on Aaron's front foot. So we'll take the back foot throws. But I agree.
Or you could see, you know, how the offensive line didn't have any sacks. I guess he could just not throw it at all in those circumstances.
I would prefer not, especially turf stadium. That really don't want him taking hits on that.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts, Alan, as we wrap up here?
No, man. I think that's pretty much it. Flying back tomorrow. Getting ready for this Ireland week. Should be interesting.
And as you guys know, I mean, this is stuff that we're going to discuss, obviously, far more as we hear from players, coaches. Tomlin Tuesday is always big in terms of recap and stuff and preparing for the week ahead as well. But this is just initial reaction. I'm sure Alan's going to go back and watch this game. I will do the same. Conversations will be fun on the afternoon drive throughout the week because of that. Alan, until we meet again tomorrow, tell the people where they can find you.
Hey, Saunders _PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers now is where a whole bunch of great content is living from this game. DB's Dudes and Duds is already up there. We got some stuff from Cole Holcomb up there, from Chris Ward already. Really good story about his return to the starting lineup, almost 2 years after that devastating knee injury. Great to talk to Cole after the game today. And then, anyone can subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here. Like you said, full week, morning rush, afternoon drive. We'll have the night shift. We'll have Pelusi. We got it all. Going on. And that's where it's at.
And the number that we're on right now, by the way, very fitting. I mean, up and down game. I appreciate the effort, but a couple splash plays in here. 16,700 and Brandon Eccles interception in the end zone, as well as the tackle on the last play, which, I mean, I don't know, he probably owes Pop Douglas a couple bucks there for going backwards on it, but still to be in position to make the play.
Nice game for BE, I thought, overall. I thought the pass interference call was a little ticky-tacky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't even referring to that, certainly, when I said about a little bit up and down. But, so shout out. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you were here on YouTube, drop a comment. If you weren't here for the live chat, still would like to drop your thoughts down below, a question for us throughout the week. And we do post this to the audio platforms as well. So if you're listening to Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive, search Steelers Now. You get Morning Rush, all that good stuff. And leave us a 5-star review and subscribe on all of it. We will read those as well. And then you'll find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH, Alan Saunders, and myself. This has been Steelers Now Postgame. We'll talk to you next time.